We'll start. Is the screen visible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So in the last class, we started with the mesh current analysis, and there we saw what is the KVL, KCL. Okay, we haven't seen KVL yet completely. We just defined what is Kirchhoff's current law, and we understood what is the necessity of going for this mesh current analysis or any other analysis hereafter we do. Okay, as the circuit complexity increases, application of only Ohm's law, equivalent circuit, or series parallel operation, and branch current formulas may not be sufficient for us to know the current and voltages at each branch and the node. Okay, so we had to have a uh, additional tool with which I can analyze the circuit completely so that I can get all the circuit parameters in all the elements those are present in the circuit. Okay, so that was the motivation why we have to go for this mesh current analysis. Hereafter, we get many other analysis methods. Okay, we also saw that Kirchhoff's current law, that the algebraic sum of all the currents at any node or a junction in a closed electric circuit is zero. Okay, and when we applied this concept to a node, okay, assuming the incoming currents to be positive and outgoing currents from the node to be negative, we concluded that there at any particular node, the sum of all incoming currents in algebraic sum of all incoming currents will be equal to algebraic sum of all outgoing currents. So with this conclusion, we also got to know that at any node in a circuit to operate, at least there should be one incoming current and at least there should be one outgoing current with any number of branches present in that particular circuit. Okay. Then we defined Kirchhoff's voltage law. As in any closed electric circuit or in any closed loop, the algebraic sum of all the EMFs and the voltage drops is zero. Okay. So to apply this statement to a particular circuit, we were looking into to define how the polarity of the potential has to be considered in the circuit elements, and we saw how the rise in potential or fall in potential is considered, okay, across the active element. This is the active element, which is the source. We assumed that fall in potential to be taken negative and rise in potential to be taken positive. So what is fall in potential? If the direction of trace is from higher potential point to lower potential point, that is fall in potential. If the direction of trace is from lower potential point to higher potential point, that is rise in potential. Okay, so if there is rise in potential, that potential value across that element to be taken positive. If there is fall in potential, the potential value across that element to should be taken negative. Okay, so this much we had seen in the previous class, in the previous session of this course. Today we will look into the potential rise and fall in passive element. Okay, the same concept has to be applied. uh, Rise in potential positive, fall in potential negative. But one thing what we should look into here is, for a source, the higher potential point and lower potential points are defined. When in circuit we connect a voltage source, and if it is a DC, okay, we always consider the we always have the exact definition of higher potential point and lower potential point. In AC, the point of the source is always considered as higher potential point, and the point of the sinks are always considered as lower potential points. Okay, uh, so there is no confusion in understanding the polarity assignment across the active elements. But when it comes to passive element, suppose I have the resistor, passive element, Now I have the resistor. Okay. Let this be R. Having let me take a different terminologies X and Y. A and B I have taken for source. For this sink, I will take X and Y. Now, consider a very simple circuit where I have only one resistor and one source connected. Okay. This is the terminal polarity of the voltage source E. The same resistor R with terminals X and Y. Now, what is the direction of current in resistor? Is it from X to Y or Y to X?
X to Y.
It will be X to Y, no doubt. Okay, that is the conventional current that we always consider to follow from positive terminal of the source. Now, we know that one fact about the electric current, current flow from higher potential point to lower potential point. Is it true? Yeah, conventional current. Okay, I am talking about conventional current. Current flow from higher potential point to lower potential point. Okay. Now, this is the direction of current or the path of the current, conventional current that has been assumed. So therefore, we always consider from the source, current always come out, okay, actual current, I am talking about actual current. Actual current always come out from the higher potential point of the source. Okay. Now, when the current has to flow through the resistor, the same thing has to be followed. The current should always flow from higher potential point to lower potential point. Now the current is entering terminal X and leaving terminal Y. Okay, there is no other path for the current. It is entering terminal X, leaving terminal Y, and it has to flow from higher potential point to lower potential point. Therefore, my terminal X will be automatically at higher potential point. Terminal Y will be automatically at lower potential point. Because current is flowing from higher potential point to lower potential point, the point where the current enters in a passive element is at higher potential. Okay, this you should make a note. Okay, the point or terminal, the point or terminal into which current enters in a passive element. This is very important. In a passive element, is at higher potential point. Is at higher potential point. Okay, so the current where the point where the current is entering into R, that point is the higher potential point. Okay, now if I consider current I to be flowing from X to Y, then X is at higher potential point, Y is at lower potential point. Okay, and this is known as passive sign convention. Passive sign convention. What is active sign convention? Active sign convention is that the current leaves from the higher potential point. Passive sign convention is opposite to that. current enters the higher potential point. Okay. So in active element, the point where the current is leaving out is higher potential point. In passive element, the point where current is entering is higher potential point. This convention you should be remembering throughout. This convention you should be remembering throughout. Okay. So when I assign any current across any element, seeing the direction of that current, okay, across any passive element, I should be deciding what is the polarity of voltage drop across that element. Now, what is the voltage drop here? It is VR, okay, where VR is equals to I into R. Magnitude of VR is product of current and resistor. This is as per Ohm's law. Now, as per the higher potential and lower potential convention, what we have considered, what is Vxy? Equals to, and what is Vyx equals to? So Vxy is the tracing of resistor from X to Y. So when I trace the component from X to Y, then I see here that X is at higher potential, Y is at lower potential. Therefore, Vxy is fall in potential. Vxy is fall in potential and is equals to minus VR or minus I into R. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now Vyx is tracing the element R from Y to X, and in the direction of this trace, I observe Y is at lower potential, X is at higher potential. Now I am traveling from lower potential to higher potential. Therefore, there is a rise in potential. So whether it is active element or passive element, rise in potential is always positive, fall in potential is always negative. Okay, so this is plus VR or plus I into R. You should not make mistake in understanding and applying this. This is a very crucial part of circuit analysis. If you go wrong here, your entire things will go wrong. Okay. Now, if I have the resistor and current is reversed, I have X and I have Y. The resistor R. Now current is from Y to X. Right? Then it is evident that the current where it is entering in the active passive element is positive. The current where it is leaving is negative. Then what is Vxy now? Now when I trace from X to Y, as per the direction of current, I have marked the polarity of the potential across the component. Then with respect to the trace direction, it is rise in potential. So therefore it is plus VR. Sorry. So it is I into R. If I take Vyx, from Y to X, it is fall in potential. Minus VR minus I into R. Okay. So this is how I assign the active sign convention, and I consider active sign convention and passive sign convention. Any doubts so far?
No, sir.
So we shall move ahead. Now we'll take a simple circuit and we'll apply the Kirchhoff's law. Okay. We'll take the same circuit that I have given up there. Let this be V1, R1, V2 and R2. Okay. So I have two sources and I have two EMFs. Because there is only one loop, which is series connected connection, I will get only one current. Is it? Now the question is, should I consider current coming out of V1 or coming out of V2? Yes? Should I consider V1 coming out of the main current? Because there is only one current, it is evident. There is only one closed path, so there should exist only one current. Now that current is in clockwise direction or anti-clockwise direction?
Depending on the magnitude of the voltage.
Yeah, depending upon the magnitude of the voltage values, is it? But since I don't know what exactly is the magnitude of V1 and V2, now I have to assume the direction of the current. Okay, the same thing has to be done in the larger circuits also. Now I have this circuit. Now I have this circuit. Even if I say 10 volts, 20 volts, 1 ohm, 2 ohm, 3 ohm, 4 ohm. Now what will be the direction of current in this first mesh? It depends upon what is the potential is available at this node. If this node voltage V1 is greater than 10 volts, then the current will be in anti-clockwise. If 10 volt is greater than V1, it will be clockwise. Similarly, the current in second loop or mesh will depend upon what is the voltage value of V1 and V2 and what is the current value in 1 ohms and 3 ohms. So these all things I will not be knowing at once the moment I get this circuit in my hand to analyze. So I have to start circuit analysis with certain assumptions. And that first assumption what I will make is always the direction of current. Remember one thing, for a given circuit with the given fixed values of circuit elements, the magnitude of current in each element is always fixed. Okay, only the direction of assumption may be reversed. If the assumed direction is exactly as the direction of actual current, then the analysis will yield the positive currents. If the assumed direction is opposite to the actual current direction, then the analysis will read the negative currents. But it will not be affected with respect to the magnitudes. Okay, magnitude of current in each element will be same as long as circuit elements remain same. Now, what I will do, I will assume a current I to be flowing in clockwise. It is my assumption. It is simply my assumption. So with respect to the direction of, because until and unless I assume the direction of current, I cannot assign the polarities across passive elements. Active element polarity is fixed. Like I told, active element polarity is fixed, but passive element polarity completely depends upon the direction of current that is flowing through them. So therefore, to assign the direction of polarity across passive elements, I have to assign the direction of current through them, and I initially simply assume the direction of current in any element. Okay, and irrespective of the direction of current, the polarity of active elements will remain same. Whether current flow into V1 or current flow into V2, the polarities are fixed because these are sources. So now with respect to this polarity, with this direction of current, if I want to assign the polarities to this R1, let me take terminal A, terminal B, and here let me take terminal X and terminal Y. Now, what will be the polarity of terminal A for R1 with respect to the direction of current? You can observe this
A
one.
is plus.
Positive, sir.
Plus.
Yeah, the what I told here is the point where the current is entering, the point or the terminal into which the current enters in a passive element is at higher potential point. So higher potential point means positive terminal. So current is entering terminal A. So A is at higher potential point. Obviously, B will be at lower potential point. Because current is flowing through R1, I know, therefore there should be potential difference between R1. I cannot say B is also at positive potential. Now when I check the direction of current through R2, it is flowing from Y to X. Therefore, terminal Y will be at higher potential point and terminal X will be at lower potential. Now once I know the potential polarities across each element, it is very convenient for me to apply the KVL. Okay, so what is KVL? In any loop
Closed loop. Algebraic sum of all EMFs and voltage drops is equal to 0.
is equal to 0. So now I should go on taking the algebraic sum of EMFs and voltage drops. Okay, and I should equate them to 0. And we always know that while taking the drops and the EMFs, rise in potential is positive, fall in potential is negative. Okay, now let me take this the loop as A, B, C, D. Okay, so KVL to loop or mesh. Here loop and mesh are same because there is only one series connection. A, B, C, D, A. Now start from A. Now the traversing path is in my mind. Okay, mentally we should be tracing the elements. Okay, or there is possibility with multicolors. We will exploit that. Yeah, start the tracing from terminal A. So from terminal A to when I trace from terminal A to B, okay, I am tracing R1 from A to B with terminal A positive, terminal B negative. So R1 is experiencing from A to B fall in potential or rise in potential?
Fall in potential.
Fall in potential. Okay. So it should be taken as minus
Minus IR1.
IR1. Very good. Minus IR1. You did this in the previous semester, but you should understand completely and do it. Then you will never go wrong in your life. Now, next part, tracing from B to C. From B to C, there is a EMF source of V2 volts. B is at higher potential point, C is at lower potential point. So it is fall in potential. Okay. This is fall in potential. This is fall in potential. Right? So it should be plus or minus?
Minus.
Minus V2. Now further, coming from C to D. C is at higher potential point, D is at lower potential point. Current flowing through R2 is I. So this is again
Minus IR2.
fall in potential. Okay, that is minus I into R2. Coming from D to A. Now D is at lower potential point, A is at higher potential point. So this is
Rise in potential.
rise in potential. So therefore it is plus
V1.
V2 is equals to 0. Okay, plus V2 is equals to 0. So I can rewrite this expression as,
Sir, V1, sir, at last.
sorry, this is V1, sorry. Okay. So I can rewrite this as V1 plus V2 is equals to IR1 plus IR2. Now what are these?
V1 minus V2.
Sorry. V1 minus V2. Okay. Then I will rewrite this. Okay. This implies V1 plus of minus V2 is equals to IR1 plus IR2. So what are these EMFs? These are drops. Now what is the conclusion of KVL? Okay, so we conclude that algebraic sum of all EMFs is equals to algebraic sum of all voltage drops. So this is not the statement, this is the conclusion. Statement of KVL is algebraic sum of all the EMFs and voltage drops in any closed loop of electric circuit is 0. This is, sorry, V1 minus V2, here we have written. Okay, sum of all voltage drops and EMFs are equal to 0. When I rearrange, I got a conclusion. Okay. So this is how we apply KVL to a particular loop. Any doubt?
No, sir.
Okay. Though this you have studied it twice in your PU and even in the basic electrical science. I thought we will have more deeper understanding of the application of KVL. Then we will move ahead, because once we invest time in understanding the fundamental application, fundamental principle, then application will become very easy. Okay, so the time taken to solve numericals will be very less once you get to know about this in a detailed manner. Okay, so this is all about KVL. Okay. Next, we'll move to Maxwell's mesh current analysis. Maxwell's mesh current analysis. So we will be using KVL to do analysis of the circuit using mesh analysis. Okay. So we already have defined what is mesh, what is loop in yesterday's session. Okay. So one thing we should know here is that mesh current analysis can be applied only to planar circuits. Can be applied only to planar circuits. Now the question is, what is planar circuit? Okay. What is planar circuit? Okay. So planar circuit is one where there is no overlapping or crossing of two branches. Okay, planar circuit is one circuit in which no branches cross over or under other branch. Okay, so what does it mean in the other sense is planar circuit is one in which I can get n number of independent meshes. Okay, in other words, circuit in which uh, we get individual meshes. We get individual meshes, or in which we get all meshes individually. Yeah, all meshes individually. What does this mean? Okay, don't go as per the grammar. Okay, we should understand the philosophical meaning of this statement rather than the grammatical meaning. Okay, individual meshes doesn't mean one mesh at this corner, one mesh at right corner, one mesh at below. Nothing of that sort. Okay. So what individual mesh means, I will draw a few circuits here. You will get to know very conveniently. Okay. Now, this is a mesh. Okay. Okay. A, B, E, F, A. Okay. B, C, D, E, B, and A, B, C, A. Okay. These are all meshes. Do you agree? A, B, E, F, A. There is no loop inside this loop. B, C, D, E, B. There is no loop inside this loop. A, B, C, A. There is no loop inside this loop. So therefore, all these three are meshes. Now I will draw a circuit. Okay. So here also I can form loops, meshes. This is one mesh, two mesh, three mesh, four mesh. Now if I have this kind of connection, okay. Okay, if I have this connection, sorry. Now this branch is passing under or over this branch. Okay, this branch is passing under or over the, or we can say a resistor I will put here, a resistor I will put here. So when there is such crossing of the branches, this is a non-planar branch. non-planar circuit. Okay, so it is difficult to apply the uh, mesh current analysis. Okay, because this will not form a mesh here. There is one node to which the branch which is crossing this branch is connected. I can't apply mesh analysis to this other loop because there is this node connected with a branch which is crossing this branch. So in this kind of circuits, I cannot apply mesh current analysis. Whereas this is a planar circuit. This is a planar circuit. Okay. Similarly, I will draw almost a similar circuit. Okay. Now, if there is only one such branch, then no issues. It can be a planar because there is no other branch which is crossing any other branch. Okay, it is still a planar. So I can apply mesh current analysis only to the planar circuits. Okay. Now, how to apply it? That is the question. Okay. Now, suppose I will take a general, what I say, a circuit, mesh analysis. I will take a general circuit here. Okay. So let this be V1, let this be V2, let this be R1, resistor R2, and resistor R3. Okay. So how to start the mesh current analysis? Okay. So mesh current analysis is started with, first we should be seeing how many meshes are present in the circuit. Okay, we know now what mesh is. Mesh is that primitive loop in the circuit into which there is no other loop present. Okay, so first what we should do is first we should observe how many meshes are present in the circuit. Okay. Then I should recognize the individual meshes. So here there are two individual meshes present, A, B, E, F, A, B, C, D, E, B. So these two are the individual meshes. I will call this as mesh 1 and I will call this as mesh 2. Okay. Then I should be now writing KVL equation for each mesh. But to write KVL equation, I need to know what is the current in that particular branch across which I am applying KVL. Now, if I want to apply KVL to this first loop or first mesh, I should know the polarity of V1, which I know because it is a source. But I know what is the polarity. I don't know what is the polarity of potential difference across R1 and R2. Similarly, in the other branch, other mesh, it is with R3. So to know the voltage drop potential polarities of R1 and R2, I should be knowing what is the current flowing through R1 and R2. But if I know what is the current flowing through R1 and R2, why should I analyze? I am analyzing the circuit to know the current. So to know the current, I am applying KVL, but to write KVL, I should know the current. So it means that I should assume the current. Okay, so here what I will do, I will assume the current in each element, okay, in each loop or in each mesh, and write KVL equation. Okay, but the analysis is mesh current analysis. It means that I should be assigning the mesh currents. Okay, so mesh current analysis is done by writing mesh equations by applying KVL to the meshes. Okay, but like I told, to apply KVL I should know the current. Okay, to write KVL equations, we should know the voltage drop, across passive elements, okay, and hence we assume current through passive elements. Okay, now how we assume the currents, that is important. Okay, so we assume, okay, we assign each mesh, okay, a mesh current. We assign each mesh a mesh current that flow we assign or we assume. Okay, that flow only in the perimeter of that mesh. Okay, and it will not cross the node, So what does this mean is, mesh current is a fictitious current. It is an imaginary current that I assume to flow in each mesh. So I assume that there is one current flowing in this mesh, and this current flows only in the perimeter of this mesh. That is, if I take this as I1 flows through V1, R1 and R2. That's it. It will not flow through R3. This is assumed current. I1 will flow through only V1, R1 and R2. Similarly, I will assume another mesh current, say I2, which will flow only through V2, R2 and R3, and it will not flow through R1 and V1. Okay, and it will not flow through R1 and V1. So with this kind of assignment of currents to each mesh, we will assign one current for each mesh, and I write KVL for each mesh. Okay. So mesh 1 I will write KVL, for mesh 2 I will write KVL. If there is mesh 3 I will write for mesh 3 KVL. So what we will get here is, as many number of meshes I have, so many number of currents I will assign to those meshes, and so many number of KVL equations I will get. So with this, what I will have is, I will get a set of linear equations. Okay, I will get a set of linear equations with number of equations equal to number of unknowns. So when I have number of equations equal to number of unknowns, it is very easy to get the solution. So what is the unknown in this KVL equation? V1 value I will be knowing, R1 value I will be knowing, R2 value I will be knowing, R3 no, V2 I know. The only unknown here is I1 and I2. So if I have two meshes, I will get two equations with I1 and I2. Two equations, two unknowns, I1 and I2. I can solve them and get value of I1 and I2. If I have three meshes, I will assign third current as I3. I will have three equations and three unknowns, I1, I2, I3. I will solve all the three equations. Then I will get the value of I1, I2, I3. Once I know the mesh currents, I can calculate very easily the actual currents in each element. Now observe, I1 is flowing only through V1, R1 and R2. I2 is flowing only through V2, R2 and R3. But R2 is getting both mesh current 1 and mesh current 2 in it. So the elements, those will be common between two meshes, will always have the both the currents flowing through them. How to consider them, we'll look into. Okay. Now, so I have assigned the currents to each mesh, and once I assign each mesh to current to each mesh, and I will write KVL equation. Now, what should be the direction of current? So only I haven't marked any arrow mark here. What should be the direction of the current? Yes.
Clockwise.
Direction of mesh currents. Okay. It can be clockwise or anti-clockwise. But one thing we should remember, if I take clockwise in one mesh, in all other meshes I should take clockwise. If I take anti-clockwise in one mesh, in all other meshes I should take anti-clockwise. I should not mix clockwise and anti-clockwise direction of the currents in a single circuit. So if I assign the direction of current clockwise in mesh 1, the direction of current in mesh 2 should also be clockwise. Okay. So here what I consider throughout this subject is clockwise direction. Why I consider clockwise direction is, most of the books follow this convention. So it will be easy for you to compare and study from the class notes and from the textbook. Okay, that is the only reason. Even if I apply anti-clockwise currents in each mesh, I will get the same equations. Equations will not change. Okay, so here we consider direction of mesh current Okay, we have direction of mesh current to be clockwise. In all the circuits what we solve hereafter, I consider direction of mesh current clockwise. Okay. Now, there are steps to be followed in writing the mesh equations. Now we know what is mesh current, what we have to do it here. So first I should be knowing what are the number of meshes present, individual meshes present in the circuit. First I should check whether the circuit is planar or non-planar. If the circuit is non-planar, I cannot go with mesh current analysis. I should go with node voltage analysis. Okay. So we will study node voltage analysis after this. So if the circuit is planar, check how many number of individual meshes we have. Okay, so assign each mesh a current in clockwise direction. After assigning each mesh a current in clockwise direction, I know the direction of current in each element in this mesh. Then accordingly, I should be marking the polarity of voltage drop across each passive element. Okay, and I should be writing the KVL equation. Okay, so that will take it will take more time. So because the time is almost up for the next class, it is just only 5 minutes left for next class. So we'll stop it here. Okay, in the next class, we will be looking into how this assumptions we apply directly and practically to the circuit, and start solving the examples on the circuit analysis using mesh currents. Okay, any doubts so far?
No, sir.
All others, any doubts? Any doubts to anybody?
No, sir.
So it's fine.
No,
You are
sir.
getting the thing. Yeah. Any doubts? So I think you are getting the things. As I because if there are no doubt means I assume that you are understanding the things. Okay. So in the next class, we will apply. Actually, we will look into the steps to be followed in application of mesh current analysis, and then we will apply directly to the circuit examples.